Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. I'm Travis Henderson with Arkansas Property Management and Real Estate. And today we're going to be doing something that I'm going to do every month, and that's give you a real data-driven market analysis of Central Arkansas. No fluff, no vague generalities, just actual numbers that we've seen in CARMLS or MLS over the past 30 days. I'm also going to be going back about 60 days just to give you a full, well-rounded idea of what we're looking at here in Central Arkansas. So I'm going to be focused on these four markets. I'm going to be focused on Little Rock, North Little Rock, Maumelle, and Conway. And I think it's going to surprise you because Conway has a lot of stuff going on right now. So let's get into it. All right, let's start with Conway. It's flat out the hottest market in Central Arkansas right now. Over the past 30 days, homes have averaged just 10 days on the market in Conway. 10 days doesn't mean a lot of time. So you don't have the luxury of just sleeping around and waiting on it. You got to have all your stuff ready, have your approval letter, your wants, and all that before you ever hit the market. So let's see how we got here. Back in March, Conway was sitting at an average of 10 days on market then, with the average sold price of $299,000. April actually softened a little bit. Days on market stretched all the way up to 20, and the average sales price dropped to $273,000. But May, it rallied back with 10 days on the market and $299,000 average sales price. What that tells me is that Conway had a brief spring pause, which is common in this area, and then it bounced right back. 3-month average days on market is sitting at 12 days, and the average sales price in Conway is $265,000. Here's what that means if you're a buyer. If you're a buyer in Conway, you need to have your pre-approval letter and be ready to move as soon as you see a house. I just can't stress enough that homes in this price range are not going to be sitting very long. And so you need to have your stuff ready and be ready to make a decision if you're looking at a home in Conway. And if you're a seller in Conway, you're in a great position right now. If your house is priced correctly, and I mean correctly, it should move fast. But an overpriced house in this market is still going to set. So you need to make sure that you're priced right because these buyers know the market. All right, let's look at Little Rock. Little Rock is the most stable market in Central Arkansas right now. And that's actually really valuable information if you're buying or selling. Here's what the last 3 months have looked like. In March, the average sold price was $255,000. The average days on market was 14. April moved up to $285,000 with a slightly longer at 16 days on the market. In May, that's our most recent data. In May, we saw house prices average $290,000 and a 14 days on market. So what you're seeing here is really clear that prices are trending upwards in this market. We went from $255,000 in March to $290,000 in May. That's a short amount of time to see that kind of price jump. It's not a feeding frenzy, but it's not a soft market either. So our 3-month average works out to about 14 days on market and average sales price of $280,000. For buyers in Little Rock, you got a little bit more breathing room than Conway, but not much. 14 days still is fast. You want to be pre-approved and know your priorities before you ever start shopping. So be ready to make a decision in just a few days instead of weeks. For sellers, the trend here is your friend. Prices have moved up meaningfully, and over the past 90 days, you've seen a dramatic sales price increase. If you've been thinking about listing your home and you're waiting for the right time, data shows now is it. Now's the time to strike. All right, let's jump into North Little Rock Sherwood area. This is a market I'm watching really close right now because something is starting to shift here, and I think it's going to be a big story over the summer. Here's the 3-month picture. In March, the average sales price was $210,000 with average days on market 24. April held steady at $215,000 average sales price, but 24 days on market as well. Now, May is where we have the change. In May, North Little Rock and Sherwood dropped to just 15 days on the market. That's a 9-day improvement in 1 month. The average sales price is around $213,000. Now, the prices didn't change dramatically over the 3 months because we're still averaging around $215,000. But the days on market is what's important here. When days on market falls like that, it usually means buyer demand just accelerated. More people are competing for the same homes and sellers are getting offers faster. So if you're a buyer in North Little Rock Sherwood, I want you to pay attention to this. A few months ago, you had plenty of time to make decisions, but the window's just it's closing on that. It's not as busy as Conway, but you're seeing a huge speed up in North Little Rock. And if you're a seller and you've been hesitant about putting your home on market because you feel it's slower, May numbers are telling a different story. This market is waking up in a big way. All right, let's look at Maumelle. This is a market that I've been paying attention to because I live here, but the past 90 days have been pretty remarkable. All right, so let's look at March. In March, home days on market averaged 48 days on market. That's a slow market. Buyers had time, sellers had to be patient, and a lot of buyers had negotiating room at that point with the average sales price of being $292,000. So we'll see how that affects April prices, because in April, days on market stuck at 45. The average sales price dropped to $255,000. At that point, if you were watching Maumelle, you might have been a little concerned. But then came May. In May, we seen days on market drop from 45 all the way down to 12 days on market. And then the average sales price skyrocketed up to $316,000. That's not a gradual shift. That's a market that flipped almost overnight. 3-month average is 25 days on market, and average sales price is $292,000. But that's being pulled down by March and April. What's happening right now is very different. If you're a buyer and you've been watching Maumelle and waiting for the right time, I want you to hear this. The window has shrunk. The market is changed and you need to be ready to move. And if you're a seller in Maumelle, May's numbers look pretty good. If you price your home right, present it well, you should have no problem moving it quickly. All right, so let's put this all together. Every market we looked at in Central Arkansas right now is active. Buyers are buying and sellers are selling. There's not a market in Central Arkansas that is sitting untouched right now. But here's what you should take away from this. If you're a buyer, your biggest risk is not being ready. So get your pre-approval now. It's not an option. You're going to have that before a realtor is going to take you into a house. So get your pre-approval now, know what you can buy. That way, when you find the house of your dreams, you're not waiting for the bank to get back to you and you miss your opportunity to put in an offer, because those houses won't sit long. They'll be under contract. So make sure you're ready before you ever start looking. If you're a seller right now, your biggest risk is overpricing the house. I know it's tempting. You want to push those numbers up, but buyers are educated. They are looking at the same data that I just shared with you. They're going to know an overpriced home when they see it. The market is moving fast, and homes that are overpriced are just going to sit there, and you're going to end up having to drop your price anyway. Don't get a stigma on your house. Price it right to start with. The sweet spot for both buyers and sellers right now is working with someone that knows these specific markets, not just general Central Arkansas. You want to work with somebody that knows what's happening in Conway versus Maumelle, what's happening in Little Rock versus North Little Rock, because as you just saw, they're all behaving very differently. That's your June 2026 Central Arkansas Market Update. I'm going to be doing this every month, giving you the real numbers, the real trends, no fluff. So if you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and hit that button and make sure you don't miss the next one. And if anything I covered today applies to your situation, whether it's you're thinking about buying or you're thinking about selling or you're just trying to figure out what the next step is, I want to talk with you. My contact information is in my bio on my YouTube channel. All you have to do is give me a call, shoot me a text, send me an email, and let's have a real conversation about what the market means for you specifically. I'm Travis Henderson with Arkansas Property Management and Real Estate, and I'll see you next time.